All right, let's continue where we left off. The next person is Kendra.
Hi. Working on a bunch of Broadway shows as a stage manager, can you just tell us a little bit about like your experience with that and what it was like?
Yeah, it's extraordinary. It's so great. I mean, this has unfortunately become a cliche thing to say. It's so great to be in the room where it happens. But it really is true. Meaning, what's great about being a stage manager is you're a part of the production family. We're in the same union that the actors are in. So we all create together. We all, live together. We all live the show together. And as a stage manager, part of what your job is, you're sort of like the unseen character, like particularly in a show that has a lot of lighting or sound cues or scenic moves. Like part of what our job is to make sure that all of those components run as they're supposed to and safely, but it also runs in the same artistic vein that is a part of the director's vision as well. So we are that sort of unspoken character. And it really is an incredible experience for us to go on that same journey, that same emotional journey that everybody gets to go on a nightly basis.
Love it. Cassidy?
Have you ever had to help with like any quick changes behind the like backstage?
Oh yeah.
Anything that that a stage manager doesn't normally do. Any stories with that?
Well, the question is like, what was the hardest one? Like the quick change.
So I never had to do it per se as my job. I have to think about that. Early in my career, I certainly did a lot of things that once you're a union Broadway stage manager, you'll be less involved in. But definitely, like, sometimes things happen, and sometimes getting the concept of the show must go on, and then having to keep the momentum of everything becomes the priority, and sometimes you do have to step in. When I was working on Hello Dolly, for example, one of our jobs was to help set up, create, and then sort of become security for the Dolly quick change area. And it was partly because it had to be created in an area where there was a lot of traffic. So it was just making sure that Dolly, as well as her dresser and hairdresser and makeup person, were safe, but also that they finished their change in time to make the entrance and for everybody else to sort of clear out of the way. So sometimes there's involvement in those types of things that are a little less direct involvement, but I've definitely had to like pull out safety pins and zip people up and help people with knotted shoes and help people with their microphones just to get them to go back on stage until they can come off and do it with the appropriate professionals.
Sarah, I know that might have been for no, go ahead.
No, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, sorry, I was confused. So, when you were younger, how did you know you wanted to be a stage manager, what you are now?
I didn't. And in fact, I had never even heard of what a stage manager was. And when I was in high school, just to take a very long story and make it short, I ended up in a production where one of the technical people had to drop out last minute. And I sort of got pulled out of the production. I was just, fourth ensemble person from, the left. And I got pulled out of the production to basically do this job that this other person couldn't do. And I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never heard of it, didn't know what was going on, didn't know what anything was called, didn't know what lighting was, literally knew nothing. And I had a teacher who, I kid you not, actually took me out of all my classes one day and gave me a crash course in scenery and lighting and sound and technical elements and call scripts and sort of what the job was. And I had to basically take this large scale production, it was a production of The King and I, through tech, which of course I had no idea what that was. and then run the show. And it just sort of clicked. So I discovered pretty young that that was something that I wanted to pursue. And then I chose a college where I was able to do all the things. I could act, I could direct, and I could stage manage. So I could just be a better, well-rounded person, but also that I could get a better sense of what it was that I was interested in doing. And that was sort of the genesis of my falling into stage management.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is Danielle here? No? Great, awesome. Well, I would like to, how did you get on Broadway? And I mean, you kind of just said that story. I mean, you said that kind of. Do you ever have any, I know a lot of times people ask any onstage mishaps. Are there any memorable mishaps that you've had as a stage manager, or anything that exceededly has gone wrong or something like that?
Oh, so many things. A show does not go by where something doesn't go bump in the night. I actually didn't really, that experience I talked about stage management was how I fell into it pre-college. I fell into it on Broadway, having worked on an off-Broadway show with a former Christine Jaye from the Phantom of the Opera. And that was a show that was sort of that I kind of grew up loving. And I told her, we became friends, and I was like, I really, really love the show. And, I had never seen her in it, but she's like, oh, I think that's so cute. Do you want to go meet the stage managers of the Broadway show? And I was like, yeah. And so she took me over to meet them, and they actually happened to have just lost their substitute stage manager. And so I got hired practically on the spot to be a sub stage manager. It was complete fluke. And that's the kind of experience that does not typically happen, but I guess the right place, right time story works out. In terms of things that have gone wrong, boy, I mean, they're countless. One of the ones I had to, I was doing The Great Comet a couple of years ago, and we had an epic show stop where so much of the show was tracked music, and our sound system, just to kind of put it into brief terms, but basically completely shut down. So we had lighting, but we had zero sound. We had no amplification. Our band, which was all across the entire theater, could not communicate with one another. And then all of our tracked recordings could not play, and nobody could follow them. We stopped the show literally for 30 minutes that day. And then our cast members sort of did some funny kind of rousing things to keep the audience entertained, which thankfully everybody loved. And we talked very much about finishing the show acoustically, but we luckily were able to get the sound system back up. That was a pretty tough one.
Mm-hmm. Kendra, and then that will probably be all the time we have for this room.
So a few weeks ago, I did the Ars Nova Great Comet telethon thing, and I am a huge Great Comet fan, and actually last night Celia was
1 minute.
Okay. She was on the call last night, and I got to talk to her about it, and I asked her the same question, but what was your favorite number to do in Great Comet?
I mean, I don't have a favorite number, but I think that score was one of the most extraordinary scores, and that experience is one of the most extraordinary experiences I've ever had, just from start to finish. It was really, really a joy and a pleasure to be a part of it.
So in conclusion, we learned that a stage manager cannot run without, a show cannot run without a stage manager, and listen to Great Comet. 15,
those are great lessons.
Right. 15 seconds, 10 seconds to go. Thank you for joining us. Cassidy will be first in the next room. It says I muted everyone. I'm sorry, I didn't do anything. There's still some people stuck. It says breakout rooms will close in 40 seconds. Okay. That's weird. Technical difficulties. Liz, do you want to see if she can join now?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I am waiting for countdown to run. How is everyone's second room? Great, awesome. I would think so. To give a little heads up, I'm just gonna say it now. Our next Q&A.
Sorry, what am I unmute? Okay. So, what's one big thing or one quote that has stuck to you all the way up to where you've come?
Who is that towards? All of us?
All of you.
I can't see everybody. Oh,
Yeah, Jeremy, you can go first.
sorry. Don't want to be rude. A quote that has always stuck with me. You know what? I have a great friend. His name is David Elder. He's a great actor. When I was very, very young and new to New York City, I understudied him in a great show called 42nd Street. And I was sort of, having an early life, midlife crisis, I thought at the time, going, what am I doing with my life? Is this the right place? Da, da, da. And he said, and I said this earlier, actually, he said, persistence is a virtue that a lot of people do not have. They have talent, they have skill, they have training. They don't have persistence. When you have persistence, you look around in a few years and the people that were auditioning beside you aren't there anymore. So persistence, stay with it. Focus on you, but be persistent. Keep going back at it.
Yeah, Brian, do you want to go next?
Sure. I sort of kind of try to live by two things. A stage manager mentor of mine taught me a phrase very early on, which is a little bit more stage managerial, but I've actually used the same idea to incorporate, actually, frankly, in my daily life. And that's that all things are not of equal importance. And he used to keep this little saying at the call desk, and it was intended to mean many different things. Certainly, very specifically, when you're going through technical sequences and you understand, if something is to go wrong, then you have to be able to sort of triage the situation and understand how to make things move forward safely and artistically appropriately. And then once I understood that as a stage manager, I was able to realize that that's a great way to live life, that sometimes we put so much weight on things that maybe don't need so much weight on them, and we forget to cherish the things that I think we need to spend a little bit more time cherishing. Sort of leads me to my second quote, is that to always strive to get 1% better every day. Because I think that nobody is perfect, nobody can do everything perfectly, and I think the ability to understand that and to always try and outdo yourself, not other people, but just to you're running your own race and try to just live your life 1% better than you did the day before, I think is something that's really helped me a lot in life and in this career.
Jake, do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think every word that's said in Sondheim's Move On, I mean, that whole song, every anything you do, let it come from you, then it will be new. It's the same idea of not worrying about what the future holds. Something else actually that is more important though is there's this great video out there. It's called Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen, and it's just full of unbelievable quotes. And the one that sticks with me the most is, your choices are half chance, so are everybody else's. And I think that's the most important thing that I always carry around with me, especially in this industry.
And then Liesl. You're still muted.
Hi. Okay, so the choreographer of The Grinch, his name is Bob Richard. He's kind of been my mentor ever since I was a kid. And one thing he always says when he's doing a show is that steps suck. And what he means by that is, it doesn't matter if you can do a triple pirouette. It doesn't matter if you learn the steps. If you don't bring a story to it, it's nothing. That's why we do theater. We're storytellers. So that, and this may be a little cheesy, but my favorite quote is, from Walt Disney. It all started with a mouse. Anything can happen. So start small and shoot for the star.
Awesome. It looks like we have Thomas has his hand raised, so you can go ahead and ask your question.
So this one is actually to Brian. What has been the most enjoyable aspect of being a stage manager on a Broadway show?
Hi, thanks. That's a really, really great question, because there's a lot of very enjoyable aspects to it. It's certainly a very, very hard job as well. But it is thrilling to be a part of a show from beginning to end. And I say that both in terms of on a nightly basis, because I like to think of stage managers, some people, I'm sorry, I've already heard me sort of say this, but as sort of that unseen character with the show. The lighting, the sound, the scenic elements all tell a story as well. And we're a part of that. And we have to share that with the music department and the cast as well. And so it is a great thrill to be able to tell our part of the story as well, in conjunction with everybody else. But also on just sort of a broader scale, when you get the opportunity to work on shows from early, the early conception, from readings and workshops through a Broadway run and sometimes beyond, it's to be able to watch how these things get created and to watch how many people it takes. And it's, sometimes we get lost in, who wrote it and who directed it and who choreographed it, but how important the actors are to it, how important all of the dancers are. Every single person in those rooms contributes something to the creation of these pieces. And when you do the show, over a period of years, you can remember, oh, that line, this person actually that created this role, and this line exists because of some ad lib that this said, or this bit of choreography exists because of something that Jeremy did, or whatever it might be. It's a really thrilling experience, because it really does take an entire village to put on a show, and it's great to be a part of that.
Awesome. So this is just to our actors. Sorry, Brian. What your favorite part is about performing? Jake, you can go first.
Cool. You saw me hesitate, so you asked me to go first. It's really hard to describe. I feel like I just have always known that I wanted to be a performer, and there's a part of me, I think, some people draw, some people write, some people run for a living. I just decided that storytelling was what I wanted to do. And I think that's the most important thing in my mind as an act. It's not about me when I'm up there. It's always about the story and what story I'm telling and how I'm telling it and how can I tell it better. And so that's what I look at every show as a challenge of how I can become a better storyteller.
Liesl, do you want to go next?
Okay. For me, what I love most is dancing. There's something about it that when you get really into a combination or something, it feels very freeing. I think the best thing about performing overall is just being able to try on different characters and to be a different person for a day. It's just literally fun and freeing. Yeah.
Awesome. And Jeremy.
Sorry, there's not much I can add to that, because I feel the same way. I think all of us performers, at the heart of that, it's like we have this need to do it. You don't know why. It's like I was saying in one of the classes, I thought I invented tap dancing in my yard when I was 5 years old. So what am I doing out in the yard in Tennessee tap dancing? So there's this need inside of us to either, whether it's musical or acting, we're storytellers. We have to do it. And I would just sort of agree with everything and then piggyback on the other fact that I feel most sure of myself on the stage. When I breach, break a leg that saying comes from break the leg of the stage, hope you make it on stage. That's what that means. It doesn't really mean break your bones. It means it's an old vaudeville term, but I hope you make it out on stage tonight, because you weren't always guaranteed an act. So I hope you break the leg. Once I pass from the wings to the stage, I just feel like I know what I'm doing. And then I go off stage and go home at night and feel like the biggest dork that has what am I doing? And I'm so awkward and all of this stuff. But then I get on stage and I'm cool guy singing Irving Berlin, and I'm in control and tapping and all this stuff. So that's just it's another favorite aspect of performing, is like, get me on stage where I know what I'm doing. That's often what I feel like. In my real life, I'm always second guessing, but I feel like, when you rehearse and you have this muscle memory and you're confident in your performance, man, that can be a safe spot, because you go out there and that's your world and you're sharing it with other people who understand what that feeling is to share that world. And you guys for 2 hours a night are just your best self, I guess, out there. But feeling that comfort of being in front of, as my friend Beth Level would call it, Dr. Footlights. Anything is possible in front of Dr. Footlights.
Yeah. Cassidy, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, this is for everyone basically. Have you ever been able to work with like your dream, like not your dream actor, but like your favorite actor, or like someone you looked up to when you were younger, or whenever?
Brian, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I have done that a few times. Actually, recently, I did the revival of Frankie and Johnny with Audra McDonald. And she was an actress who, for me, I really fell in love with the first time I heard the cast album, and then the first time I saw Ragtime on Broadway. And I just thought she was unbelievably extraordinary. And every performance or every show that I was able to see of her since then, I've always been a huge fan of hers. And she's like one of the rare people who, when I've had random occurrences to meet her, like I get very nervous around. I don't know why, because there's nothing about her that would make you nervous, but I was always super nervous around her for some odd reason. And I always was hoping that one day I would get the opportunity to work with her, and I did. And it was an extraordinary experience, because I think she's incredible.
Awesome. Liesl, do you want to go next?
Sure. So the last time I did the Grinch, Gavin Lee played the Grinch. And like I said to one of my breakout Zoom things, I love SpongeBob the musical. I think it's so amazing. I saw it 5 times. So when at our first rehearsal, I went up to him and I was total like awkward fangirl. I was like, "Hi, I'm Liesl. I saw you in SpongeBob 5 times. You're amazing." And then he was like, "Oh, great. Let's do a show." And I was like, "Ah." Yeah.
Yeah. Jeremy, do you want to go?
I should just stay unmuted. Yeah. Well, when you reach a certain age, you've worked with a lot of people. So I've reached that echelon where I've been alive a long time. So you get to work with a lot of folks. I idolized Harry Groener when I was a kid. Crazy for You was my favorite. It's the first Broadway show I saw on a trip in college. And I finally got to do a production of, it was Ken Ludwig's version of An American in Paris. And he was the star of the show. And I was just in awe of this person who I had idolized forever. I also always really loved the Partridge Family when I was a kid. And when I got to play Billy Lawler in New York and 42nd Street, Shirley Jones was Dorothy Brock then. So I could just pinch myself. And I'm trying to think about folks. Two other things that I finally got to work with, stars. I was Bette Midler's dance coach for the summer before she started Hello Dolly rehearsals, and I could have just died right then. And then I did a concert one time where I got to direct and choreograph at Town Hall here in New York City, Miss Piggy. So I can't, that's where I end. My story ends with Miss Piggy.
I think you win with Miss Piggy. That's awesome.
Right.
And then Jake.
I too worked with Miss Piggy.
Oh gosh.
No, I'm just kidding. So I have always idolized the music of Candor and Ebb, and luckily enough, I had the opportunity the last time that I worked on Cabaret as the MC, I actually was just in the Village and getting a coffee on a rehearsal break, and I walked right by Joel Grey and was like, wait. So I sat down and had an impromptu like hour and a half conversation with him, which was incredible. And then our closing night, John Kander came and saw the performance. And so I got to spend the evening talking to him as well.
That's so cool. Amelia, do you want to ask your question?
Role or show to be in.
Did we all hear that? I think you glitched out at the beginning. Can you repeat that one time, please?
What's your dream show or role to be in?
Awesome. Liesl, do you want to go first?
Oh my, that's such a difficult question. I've always wanted to be a monkey in Wicked. Because I'm also a gymnast, it's a little bit weird, and it's not like, oh my gosh, I want to be Cassie in a chorus line. I like to bring gymnastics aspects to like musical theater, and I just think it would be really fun to be in the ensemble of Wicked and to get to be a monkey flying up and down. Yeah.
Jake, do you want to go?
Yeah, so I also think it's a difficult question. I think that, dream roles and goals, they like shift and evolve, and like you have many, right? So I think one that I have and am working towards is like, I would love to be in a Broadway play, like a really good play on Broadway. Particularly The Ferryman was very effective for me. I would love to be in that show.
Awesome. And then Brian.
Similarly, I don't necessarily think, as somebody who works backstage, don't necessarily have aspirations to work on specific shows necessarily, but I have had the opportunity a couple times to work on shows that have been huge favorites of mine, either from the past or from current seasons. Like when I did get to work on, I did a concert version of Ragtime, which had an incredible all-star cast, including Lea Salonga and Patina Miller, and it was an incredible group of people. So it's pretty amazing to get those types of opportunities when they come. But there's nothing, I guess, specifically that I'm out there looking to do that's currently running, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then Jeremy.
Well, one of my dream roles, and this question, I agree, it's such a hard question, and we get this question a lot, and what do you say? First of all, I feel lucky that I've gotten to do a lot of, when I was your age, I had a list, and I've gotten to do a lot of those. Stay alive long enough and you will. But you've already mentioned, now I have a new dream role I didn't think I had one, and now I have one, and it is unapologetically, it's already been mentioned on this Zoom call, Squidward and SpongeBob.
I was actually going to say that you should do that because you said you were.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm going to tell my agent that you said that. You're not the only one, and I could play that role. That's the role that I had to do it, like FDR and Annie coming out in the wheelchair. I could do that forever as long as my hips held out.
Right. And then
right. Sometime.
All right, and then this will probably be our last question for the Q&A. This is a really quick one though. Nikima wants to know if you can see people in the audience during your shows. Jeremy, do you want to go first?
The answer is yes. We can see everything you're doing. I was doing Cagney off Broadway, playing Bob Hope. I look nothing like Bob Hope, so I'm trying to imitate him with my face. It's a lot of work. The front row, I'll never forget, one night there was a lady with a CVS bag, and she would reach into the CVS bag, which crinkled and crumpled and made a lot of noise, and then she pulled out a rotisserie chicken and started eating a rotisserie chicken in the front row of an off-Broadway show. That's one of 1,000 stories I could tell, but the answer is yes. We can see everything you're doing, especially filming us.
Leslie.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see you. Don't fall asleep. Don't be on your phone. And yeah, that's the main thing. I always remember seeing people filming and I'm like, okay, they're not supposed to be doing that. Please watch the show, be respectful.
Jake, do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, yes, we can see you. We can hear you. Some shows have infrared cameras, so they can definitely see you. We had that on Elf, and we could see anytime anyone had a camera up. And then, actually, I was working as the ASM also, and so it would be my job to then locate someone local at the theater and say, "Hey, someone's recording," and then they would have to go out there in the middle of the show and tell them to stop recording. So yeah, we can see you.
And then Brian.
Yes, the unapologetically, unequivocally yes. And just sort of to tag on to what Jake said with the infrared cameras, anybody who sits anywhere near the conductor, you are most definitely seen. And you are seen by everybody on a big screen quite often on stage. So people not only can see you live if they look down, but when you're watching the conductor, you can see anything that's happening in and around the conductor that's on that camera. So yes, I've seen a lot of things on that camera.
I mean, I'm texting Liz. I'm guilty, but I don't know what